When this happens, we usually feel like someone has pulled the ground out from under our feet. Hello, dear astrology lovers, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alexandra, and I'm a professional ISAR certified astrologer. In today's video, I'm going to explain Mars from the perspective of energy astrology and astro-meridian technique, which I find very useful. And that's because they allow us to gain a deeper understanding of our horoscope and take practical steps, this is very important, to improve and heal it. In energy astrology, our birth chart represents an energy map. So every planet is connected to a specific chakra, and every house is linked to a specific meridian in our body. For those of you who are not that much into energy topics, I'll briefly explain. So chakras are energy centers along the spine, while meridians represent channels that carry energy throughout the body. Each meridian is associated with a specific astrological house, and by stimulating it through its acupuncture point, we automatically connect with the corresponding house in our chart, and that allows us to shift its energy. Very similarly, by working on a specific chakra, we can bring the planet that rules it into balance. And this process directly influences and improves the areas of life that a specific house or planet rule. Now, let's focus on Mars. Energetically speaking, Mars is one of the most important planets, not only because it is the significator of energy, but also because it is connected to the first energy center in our body, known as the first chakra or the root chakra. The root part here is very important, so I would like you to memorize it, and I'll explain why later in the video. If you want to understand whether your first chakra is balanced or not, you need to look at Mars and its dispositor in your birth chart and check for their aspects. Also, take a look at the rulers of your first and eighth houses, planets in them, and in the signs of Aries and Scorpio, because all of them carry strong Mars energy. If there are any difficult aspects in any of these areas, your first chakra is highly likely to need some balancing. What kind of symptoms can you have if your first chakra is not balanced? How can you tell in your everyday life? I will share some main symptoms. Number one is definitely fear. And fear doesn't always have to be connected to extreme situations where life is directly at risk. Okay, those are like extreme situations, but it can also be a chronic fear of something, and this is very typical. For example, you are afraid of flying. That's connected with your Mars, your first chakra, and your first meridian. The first chakra imbalance can also manifest as chronic fear related to survival, which can limit personal growth and achievements. For example, fear of changing jobs, moving to a new home, or engaging in anything new and unfamiliar. So there can be a general sense of insecurity that blocks the energy. And this often happens when Mars is in a challenging aspect with Saturn. The reason behind these feelings is that Mars represents our basic survival instinct. So every time we feel threatened and our safety and stability have been or can be potentially undermined, this center gets triggered. And a typical example from the modern world would be a job loss. When this happens, we usually feel like someone has pulled the ground out from under our feet. So our stability has been undermined because we are going through an existential crisis. We are unsure about our future. Basic things like buying food, paying bills, and covering rent suddenly become a heavy burden. In such situations, the first chakra takes over while the other chakras become less dominant because survival becomes the only priority. And that right there is Mars in action. The most important thing for Mars, our animal instinct, is to survive. So what does Mars need to be in balance? The feeling of safety and stability. Imagine being afraid and someone comes along and tells you, you are safe. The level of fear automatically drops. So that's what Mars needs to return to balance, a strong feeling of safety. That was fear. Another symptom would be anger. Mars and the first chakra are directly connected to the adrenal response in our body, which gives us a surge of energy to prepare for one of two typical situations: to run, in which case we may turn pale as the blood flows to the legs, or to fight when the blood rushes to the upper body and the face becomes flushed. This mechanism is far too often activated when Mars is in challenging aspects with Uranus and Pluto, which can show up as uncontrollable anger. If you get triggered and spit fire like that, it's a strong sign of a first chakra imbalance. So, being easily triggered is a powerful indicator of being ungrounded. Grounding is extremely important for Mars, and I'll explain it later in the video. So fear and anger, and then chronic coldness and low energy. This is also a symptom of Mars's disbalance. When Mars is in challenging aspects with Saturn, energy doesn't flow easily through the body, which can show up as poor circulation and the chronic feeling of cold. And this is also linked to a sense of fear that feels very cold and icy, which is where expressions like I froze in fear or I was paralyzed with fear come from. And when it comes to low energy, if Mars is out of balance, mornings can feel really hard. Like getting out of bed can represent a huge effort because returning from the dream world, from the 12th house into the first house, can be a struggle. And when Mars is afflicted, especially by Saturn, or debilitated because it's in a sign where it feels weak, mornings tend to be slower, blood pressure is lower, and you simply need some time to lift your energy and start functioning. If this is your case, then you are not the type of person who can just jump out of bed and rush into the day. Another symptom is a sudden appetite change, eating too little or too much. This often points to an imbalance in the first chakra. And I have to underline that this isn't about anorexia and bulimia, because those two are rooted in emotional issues and they are connected to the fourth chakra, which is ruled by the moon. In the context of Mars, we are talking about eating as a form of grounding because it helps us feel safe, which is crucial for Mars, right? So overeating or being overweight can sometimes indicate that the person is trying to compensate for a need for safety and protection. And on the other hand, eating too little can be a way of avoiding grounding. And this often happens when the space we live in doesn't feel right. And then when we change it, our appetite improves. That actually happened to me when I moved to another country for work. So I couldn't ground there because I never felt like I belonged, which led to a drastic loss of appetite and caused me to lose a lot of weight. And then when I came back home after 2 years, my appetite naturally returned. This can also happen when we are traveling for vacation and we experience constipation. Unfortunately, that happens as well. And it happens because our inner blockages get activated when we subconsciously don't feel safe about the quality of the food, for example, or the hygiene. So energetically, we close ourselves off and block until we get used to the new environment and start feeling safe. And as you can notice, I'm using the word safe a lot because safety is what Mars needs to function properly. Getting sick too easily would be another symptom, because Mars is the warrior within us and it is connected to the immune system, which fights off viruses and bacteria. So when Mars is weak, we are more prone to infections and inflammation. And also, if it forms challenging aspects with Saturn, colds can be very frequent. So Mars and Saturn are a very important combination, because Mars actually needs Saturn to heal. So difficult aspects can cause a lot of challenges, but they can be worked on. Now, let's explore three key techniques that can help calm Mars's energy and start bringing it back into balance, because that's possible. We can work on our birth chart. The first technique that I find very valuable is the astro-meridian technique. I explained what meridians are at the beginning of this video, so let's jump to the practical part of this section. Mars's acupuncture points, through which we contact our meridians, are located in the hollows just below the collarbone. So, right here. And these are the points through which we can contact the meridians and change the flow of their energy. And this method allows us to connect our mind and body and change how we feel about something, and also change our beliefs. So by tapping here, we can reduce anger or fear. That's typical for Mars. How do we start the process? We don't jump here right away, right? So the process begins by identifying the problem we want to work on. For example, fear of flying. Then we identify how strong the fear is on a scale from 0 to 10. For example, 8. That's very high. And then we start tapping the thymus point in the chest while accepting ourselves and acknowledging our feelings. So we can say, even though I'm afraid of flying, I love and accept myself. I'm afraid of flying. And then we can list how we feel, everything we feel about our situation, everything we think. What if something goes wrong? I feel a lot of fear, that enormous fear. And tapping here will give you a very pleasant feeling. It will relax you, after which you can switch and go to the Mars's meridian. I feel a huge pressure in my chest. What is this fear for? How is this fear protecting me? Maybe I don't need this fear anymore. I don't need this fear. I release this fear. I relax. I choose to feel safe while flying. And I let go of this fear. And you can keep tapping until the fear drops to 5 or below. After that, you can move to Mars's meridians, and then you will say positive affirmations. You are changing your beliefs and your thoughts, and automatically you are changing your feelings about your specific situation. I'm safe. I am safe. It's very important to say that you are safe when it comes to your work on your Mars meridian and chakra. It is safe for me to fly. I am safe. I choose to enjoy the flight because I am safe. And you can continue saying whatever feels pleasant for you regarding your situation. You can translate this into your own situation and add your own affirmations, anything that creates a pleasant feeling in the body. There are no rules on how long you should be tapping within a single session. The only indicator would be a lower level of fear or anger and a more relaxed and pleasant feeling in the body. Regular practice is important, especially if you have a chronic fear of something, because positive change only happens through consistency. So you can do this when you feel the first chakra imbalance symptoms, or even when you feel good, but you want to actively work on that part of your horoscope, which is something I would definitely recommend. Okay, that was the astro-meridian technique, and now I want to also represent grounding to you. Grounding is important for Mars because Mars's chakra is rooted at the base of the spine, and its energy flows downwards through the legs all the way to the Earth's core, forming a root. Which brings us to an important point. The root is ruled by Saturn. So Mars and Saturn work as a pair. Mars is naturally exalted in Capricorn, so it needs Saturn's energy to regain strength. Grounding is a very Saturnian activity and it helps you calm down in stressful situations and regain stability. This involves anger as well, not fear only. And grounding can be done in different ways. The simplest one involves contact with nature, specifically walking or standing barefoot on the ground so that you can absorb the powerful and stabilizing energy from the earth's core all the way up to the first chakra. And while doing this, you can also visualize your energy roots being released from the first chakra through your legs and feet downwards all the way to the earth's core. And then when your roots attach to the earth's core, you can visualize pulling the healthy and fiery energy from the earth's core upwards through your roots and legs all the way to your first chakra. And this is a powerful grounding technique. If it's done regularly, it can provide a strong sense of stability and decrease fear, anger, and the feeling of insecurity. You remember the job loss situation I described at the beginning of this video? Grounding every morning could help you calm down, feel more secure, and from that place, take more reasonable actions toward your goal, which is finding a new job. So, some people like to ground themselves by hugging a tree, which is also Saturnian. And when you do this, you absorb its calming and stabilizing energy, which is essential for healing Mars. These methods may seem simple, but they represent a powerful way to reconnect with your body and restore a sense of stability. And the more grounded we are, the less we react to external triggers that usually bring up anger and fear. And the third technique I'd like to share is listening to high frequencies. This is especially powerful for low energy issues. Now, the energy boosting frequencies are very high. They're not relaxing, they're not meditative. Basically, there is no music. They represent a pure sound. And I measured the audio file that I have and that I got as an energy astrology student. It says 2000 hertz, which I hope is correct. It's a bit intense because it's very high, but there is the sound of waves at the background, which makes it more pleasant. So exposing your entire body to it, especially in the morning, can lift your energy and boost your productivity and motivation for the day. And this shouldn't be done in the evening because it can make it too difficult to fall asleep because of such a high energy boost. So these were the techniques that I use to lift my energy and work on Mars. And this brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found it inspiring and most importantly, useful. And if you liked this video, I would like to invite you to give it a thumbs up and also to subscribe to my channel. That way you will help it grow. And most importantly, you will be updated whenever there is a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.